Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Excuse the laundry noises in the background. Today is my laundry day, so catching up on some of that. But what we're here for is the locomotive, and you guys can see I have the actual locomotive itself disassembled. I've even kind of started to put a few things back together. Still have quite a long way to go before I actually start putting stuff together. Basically just wanted to make sure that I ran the proper length of wire from the panel through the frame for the plug out back here. Anyone who's torn one of these bigger Athearn Genesis locomotives apart understands that that is a huge pain and very difficult to get wires back through all that. And then of course we have a DCC panel here, and I can show you guys the panel that came out of the locomotive originally, because it's still trapped on the original frame here. This is the non-DCC version of that there, and you guys can see I still have the wires on through here, and the hard part is getting that plug through that teeny little hole. To combat that, I have in the past, and on this one too, I've cut that hole bigger to fit the plug through because it is extremely tight. I'm pretty sure they run the wires through and then put that plug on, because it's not impossible, but it's almost impossible to get that plug and the wires back through that little hole. So, and a knife cutting that opening a little bit bigger definitely helps. But yeah, this is just kind of showing, I guess I could flip this the right way too. And I don't need the top half. This just kind of shows the differences between the DC panel versus the DCC panel, and also this is a older panel as well. Like I've said in the past, this locomotive was from the earlier Athearn run, so a lot of older components on it. We do have a brand new motor. It is an older motor, but it is brand new, 0 miles on it, so it is in fantastic shape, no noise, really smooth. That is just tucked away in here. And then we also have underneath it the little pad that helps with vibration and stuff like that. But motor's in really good shape, ready to go with that. The frame itself is an older frame. On some of the newer ones that I have out here, the frames are done in matte black. These older frames are kind of a gloss black. Not really a big deal. You can't really see too much of it when the locomotive is together. A lot of the components and everything you pile on top hides all that. So basically just kind of got my lower portion of the boiler put together just to get these ran through, and then we are using the older boiler backhead that has the painted gauges. Once Athearn started producing the little bit newer models, like over there, that actually have the color pictures on them, they stopped doing these painted boiler backheads, which really sucks, because just that little bit more added detail, and I think they always look great. Of course, you can do that yourself. It's just something else that's very tedious and time consuming. But you can really only find these on the older models. So we kind of got some stuff figured out there. I kind of have all of my parts swapped around that I wanted to change, and we'll talk about that here. I'll just leave that there because I don't really have a better place to set that without damaging anything. These frames, the engine frames themselves, are from the little bit newer version. They still are older, as you guys can see. They're in the gloss black, but they're a little bit newer than what came out of there. I will be using the rods because I actually like the finish on the older rods compared to the rods that I had originally set aside for the project. These ones have a little bit more of a sheen to them, a little bit shinier, and they look a little bit closer to what you see on the more modern models. So I like those. I am going to be removing the cylinders and putting the newer cylinders on. Something else we're upgrading is this. The trailing truck still had, I don't know why that's not focusing. The trailing truck was still screwed in right here and had the spring. One of these screws over here was for that. And on the newer models, they've updated this with a weight to help keep weight on it, and it doesn't restrict the movability like a screw does in that area. Of course, it is still screwed to the back, to the rear engine, the very back of the rear engine. It's screwed on there as a pivot point, which is fine. But we are upgrading that with this little weight right here. A little bit newer wheels are going in that. I was planning on switching out the drivers, but just kind of looking at them, the drivers are in fantastic shape. They're very greasy and oily, so I'm going to have to clean them up really well so that way the tires paint up nicely. But literally nothing wrong with these drivers, and they're the non-rubber band drivers. I feel like the newer ones, they kind of switched to rubber bands on the power axles, and I'm not a huge fan of those. Yes, they offer some traction, but I kind of like to have these things rely on their weight for tractive effort, just like a real locomotive. You know, if it's slipping, that's kind of neat. So we are going to use the original drivers, changing out the old contacts that you guys can see. Instead of them sitting there, they were kind of like a brighter silver color. The newer ones are that copper, so we're going to be using some new ones of those. I will be reusing the contact plates for the front and rear driver. There's literally nothing wrong with those at all, and the wires are still on them, so I don't have to solder new wires to those, so that saves me a little bit of time. It's getting a newer LED for the headlight. It originally had an older LED that was kind of that orange color. This is more of like that white color, so that'll be nice. I will be switching out the frame, and I need to go through I have a whole thing full of pilot and trailing trucks in there. We're going to switch out the frame and not have a gloss black pilot truck frame. And then I have a newer, still the old version, but a unused set of pilot truck wheels that we're going to be using. These are really nice because they're already painted black. I just have to add the white to the very edge of the wheel right there for the effect of like the painted sidewalls. Of course, I talked about us doing oil conversion. The tender is fully set up for oil conversion now, and we took the wood deck off. This came with a wood deck. In modernizing this, I removed the wood deck, and then just simply put in the oil burning insert instead of the coal insert. This tender does still need a few more details and just some in general work, but as of right now, it's a perfectly good working tender. I've tested it. The electronics in it work perfect. I got everything wired up correctly. The rear lights work on it really nice. Couple things that I'll be adding to this, I can show you on 3985's tender. So I'll be adding the water hose, or the water piping, the MU plug receptacle, the extra MU cables, or the MU hoses, And then doing some nice gloss red paint on the marker lights. Those are a few upgrades. Another upgrade is the little re-railers that are mounted on each side here. You guys can kind of see them there. Those are a Details West item that I've added after the fact as well, because these do not come with them, but the real locomotive had them. So just a couple little things. With this not being a Union Pacific locomotive, well, you know, you guys kind of heard my story last time of, you know, it's Union Pacific, but, you know, trying to stay pretty clear to the roots of Rio Grande. I will not be painting the bearing cap silver, and then all of the outer rims on the wheels will be painted white. I have found a nice older picture of 3800. This particular locomotive is 3804, but I found a nice picture of 3800 sitting there with all the tires painted white. So we'll do that and make it look really classy. On the walkways here, these came pre-painted, but I will be fixing those up because they are kind of faded and dingy, so we're going to paint those bright white, make those really pop. Of course, a bunch of red detailing that I still have to get to, but right now we're just kind of concerned with getting everything up and going. I think I will kind of fully assemble the locomotive, just that way I can do a mechanical and electrical test on it, make sure everything's working right, and then we'll take the wheels back off and get those painted, do some detailing and stuff like that. So I at least want to make sure everything works before I go and put a bunch of work into it, get it all together, and have it be like 100% done, finished, and then it doesn't run. So we're gonna make sure I go through and these are pretty straightforward. The only thing that is hardwired is the headlights, which is kind of annoying. Those actually solder to those 2 points right there. So they run up through this hole in the frame, and they actually sit down in this channel you guys can see that's cut into the front frame, and this little stem right there on the front of the pilot, or on the back of the pilot. See if I can get that to focus. You guys can see that little hole in between those solder joints right there. That's right where that sits. And then the wires are held down in here by some sticky tape. You guys can see that's in there. And then they come up through this hole. And then they go up through that hole right there. And then they come through this hole. And then through that hole right there. And then they finally get soldered. So it's a lot of fishing those through. So that's kind of a hassle. I still have a lot of cleaning some parts up before I can start putting some stuff back together, because once the locomotive is together and tested, it's really not that big of a deal to just pull the wheels out and paint those. But stuff like this, I really need to have painted, or just not put it on and just put them on after everything's done. So I still have quite a bit of work to do. Like I said, I have to clean all these drivers up. They're very messy. I have to clean all the wheels up yet. The tender wheels are all clean and done. Those are fairly easy to pop out when it comes time for painting those. So those won't be too bad. But other than that, we're making good progress getting everything figured out. The big thing was just getting everything apart, figuring out what I was going to use, what I'm not going to use, what parts I wanted to wear. And so we've kind of got all that figured out now. Basically, you have to disassemble all this stuff, clean it up really good, because it is very greasy and oily. Whoever had it before me or actually before the guy that had it before the guy that I bought it from, kind of over oiled and really made things a mess. So I'm having to go back and clean a lot of that up before I can paint certain details. But yeah, once this is together, it'll be a fantastic running locomotive. Some older components, but still new, unused components nonetheless. So not super old stuff either. So that'll be really nice. This will be a really nice running locomotive. The bushings on the drivers are in pretty decent shape. There's not a lot of wear on the axle. There's just mainly it's just kind of a mess, old oil, and some type of old grease that was on there. So all that's going to be clean. I think I'm going to actually dip these whole drivers in a bath of rubbing alcohol. And I won't go too aggressive with the rubbing alcohol. I'll probably do like a 70% rubbing alcohol. And we'll just dunk those in there and kind of wash them with a brush. Try to get all those oils off of there. So that way when I do go to paint the tires, the paint will stick nicely to the tires. That's a big thing on these. If you're going to do wheel painting like that, you really have to make sure that you're not over oiling and that the part doesn't have any oil on it before you paint, because your paint will not last. So, but pretty good progress so far. I figured to bring you guys in for an update while the locomotive is completely torn apart and kind of show you some things. The underside here, you guys can see I have the tongue hooked back up, and you guys can kind of see where the wires run through there. There's a crack here. This isn't, this is a used part from my part stock here, so there's got a little bit of a crack there. That doesn't really affect anything, but you guys can see I've cut that hole bigger to get these wires and that plug through there, and then this little plate here slides in place and pinches all the wires in there. Just had to make sure that I had that far enough through to where everything could reach, and nothing was, making sure I had enough wire out this way but not too much was why I kind of had to get all that back together. So but yeah, that's it for this update, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed, and until next time, take care.